Criterion dungeons. I remember when they announced these last year. I was so excited. One of my favorite pieces of content in WoW is Mythic Plus. Having high-end dungeon content in my mind would breathe new life into some of my absolute favorite content in any MMO. In fact, going back to my first real MMO, Elder Scrolls Online, I remember the smaller instance content being my absolute favorite. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy raiding, but there's something about having a smaller group of 4 to 5 buddies just shooting while fighting some bosses that really resonates with me. That's why I was very disappointed when the first Criterion dungeon released. Now, the dungeon itself was fine. The bosses were good, and for the first time, I found myself CCing mobs in this game. I was having a great time. I even live streamed it right here on the channel all the way back in October of last year. I didn't make it far though. It was hard, but I remember thinking, this is it. This will be some of my favorite content in the game. And then this happened.
Something so sick, dude. It's gonna be something so sick. Oh wait, yo, I got a manuscript. What is this?
What the actual is this? There are no worthwhile rewards for completing the base difficulty, and there's absolutely no reason other than the achievement to do Savage. The mount you can get can literally be bought from the market board, and it's not even a good one. So just as quickly as the hype came, the hype went. Good luck finding a group to run this with. And why would anyone? Sure, it's fun, but there has to be an incentive. You can't convince a group of 4 players to hit their heads against a digital brick wall without something worthwhile. Imagine if Ultimates dropped materia instead of weapons. So with 6.45 and Mount Rokkon on the horizon, what can Square Enix do to fix Criterion dungeons? Obviously, you can fix the rewards. I've heard several ideas thrown around, and I think there are no wrong answers here. First, having a better, more unique mount that can't be sold on the market board is a great start, as well as other cosmetics like glamour, minions, and emotes. And Stilton did have these, but you could get them once again from the market board. Also, a lot of the good ones dropped from the variant version, which, sidebar, the variant dungeon was very, very good. Good job. Good job, Square, you did it. So cosmetics as well as gear. The main fear I've heard with putting gear into Criterion dungeons is creating the sense of obligation. If good gear drops, then raiders will feel a need to do it. I was originally against gear, but I've since come around to it. First, gearing is already pretty slow, and it really only matters if you're a raider. Second, if you're a raider, you're most likely already interested in Criterion dungeons. These two pieces of content work in tandem. They're both high-end PvE content. Third, at 6.45's release, the last raid tier of the expansion will be out for 2 months. Most serious raiders are already done. The only people left are the slow burners and people who haven't even started yet. Providing them with a new source of gear will help them progress faster while still capturing that feeling of accomplishment. It's a net positive. Adding gear only affects raiders and in a positive way. The only reason you would ever need gear in this game is to do raids or dungeons. John RP will not be affected or feel compelled to do Criterion dungeons if gear gets added. So that's the bigger complaint out of the way, but there's another big one I don't see people talking about. But before I talk about that, you should like this video. It lets me know that this type of content is worth doing, and we're almost to 600 subs, so hit the button. Hit the button. Do it. Hit the button.
Hit the button. Do it.
So what's the other big one? The cadence at which Criterion dungeons are releasing. By the time Mount Rokkon releases, there will be about an 8-month gap between Criterion dungeon releases. For Ultimates, this may be fine, but for smaller, more accessible PvE content, that is completely unacceptable. If you want players to play your game, you have to have more content. People like the idea of dungeons because of their smaller group size, less commitment, and repeatability. But that only works if it's coming out consistently. The issue here is that for whatever reason, the devs feel they have to make a whole new dungeon and tie it back to the variant dungeons. And I could not disagree more. You have a very large pool of dungeons you can pull from. Criterion dungeons are linear anyways, so why not rework your existing dungeons into Criterion dungeons? Imagine Dead Ends at Criterion difficulty, Amarat, the Gimlet Dark. There are so many possibilities. The Vault. All of these would make great Criterion dungeons that players would love. They're sitting on this content that most players only do in roulettes at this point. I don't think I've ever been more passionate about a piece of content in this game before. Look, Square got the most important part right, and that is the dungeon itself. If they can work out a better reward system and up the cadence in which they release through reworking old dungeons, I think Criterion dungeons can be a great success. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Remember, so close to 600. Thank you for watching and take care.